All right, today let's talk about a really great tool in the EOS toolbox that we call the People Analyzer. And just before we get into the details of the People Analyzer, let's just talk about the people component. You know, EOS, we tell you we want you to look at your company through the lens of what we call the 6 key components of your business. And one of the very most important of those 6 key components is what we call your people component. Because if you're going to have a great company, you have to have great people top to bottom in your organization. So what is a great person? How do we define that? And we really kind of start off in EOS using some concepts that came from Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great. And this was an old book, but boy, it's really great. He analyzed the Fortune 500, found 11 companies that beat the stock market by a factor of almost 4 for 15 years straight. And he said, well, man, that's pretty good company if you can beat the stock market by a factor of 4 to 15 years straight. And what he found out that one of the key things that every one of those companies had is a leader that just was maniacal about having great people. And you really wanted to put in a rigorous personnel management system so you could always make sure you were keeping great people in your company. Jim Collins also coined 2 phrases, right people and in the right seat. He said you have to have the right people on the bus, and then you got to figure out where you're going to go. So you have to have right people, right seats. You got to have both, and they're really 2 different things. When we talk about what is a right person, we're just talking about a person that fits the culture of your company. The person that you just love to work with when they come in the morning and you say, hey, Joe, how you doing? Because they're just a great person that you want to work with. In right seat, that just means that they're really, really good at what they do. And you've got to have both. You have to have people that fit your culture and that they're really good at what they do. So there's a couple of tools we use. The People Analyzer is one big tool, and the other tool we call the accountability chart, and they kind of work together. What we do in order to determine if a person is a right person is we really just analyze them as to how they're, for want of a better word, behaving against your core values of your company. If you've got 4 or 5 core values, you just look at each one and you look back over the last 90 days with this tool we call the People Analyzer, and you just say, okay, John, let's people analyze John. How's John doing in my first core value? Let's say that core value is do the right thing. So you just look back over the 9 months. Did John do the right thing and all the decisions and actions that he made in the last month? And if John did, and he pretty much did the right thing all the time, you rate him a plus. If sometimes John did and sometimes John didn't, you really don't know what you're going to get today, you rate him a plus minus. And if John's just not really doing the right thing, he just really doesn't pay much attention to that, you rate him a minus. So you just rate your people against each one of your core values, and that just gives you some clarity. It's just a thinking tool to be intentional about, is my employee a right person, and have they been a right person in the last 90 days? We do have something we call the bar when we look at those core values, and what we mean by that. Let's say you have 5 core values. On EOS, we recommend that for a person to be at or above the bar, in other words, a right person, they would have to have a plus in their behavior against 3 of those core values and no more than 2 plus minuses. And we say that because we don't want that bar to be so high that you're saying nobody's a right person. People say you can develop a great culture if most of the people in your organization, for the most part, are fitting your culture, but no one's rejecting your culture. No one's rejecting one of your core values, and that's what it is when you have a minus. So if somebody rates a minus, we have to work on that. The other part, right seat, is you take a look at their seat on the accountability chart, your org chart, and you really think about what is it going to take to be really great at that seat. What are the skills? What are the knowledge? What do they do? And we have a tool we call Get It, Want It, and Capacity. Gets it means that when you look at that seat, you say, John, he gets it. He understands everything about doing that seat. He's got the knowledge. He's got the experience. He's got it. Wants it means that they come into work every day and they want to do that. They truly are passionate about doing that job. You don't have that kind of employee that always seems to get sick on Mondays or Fridays, or worse, you leave the day at the end of the day and something needed to be done, you check and it's not done. Now you have to stay late and do that because even though it was their job, they didn't really care to do that. Capacity to do it just means that they can do enough of it and they do it at a high enough quality level that you're cool. You're happy with their performance. So you rate them against their seat and the roles in that seat, and you do that. And for the People Analyzer, how that goes into that, you just add some more columns on the People Analyzer, and you call it Gets It, Wants It, Capacity to do it. And after you've thought about them, that's the big thing, you're thinking about your employee, then you look at that accountability chart. You look at that seat they're in your company, what you need them to do. And you say, hey, in the last 90 days, did John exhibit that he really gets that role. He really understands it. Did John want to do that? Did all that stuff get done all the time? And we didn't have a lot of things falling through the cracks. And as we went along in the quarter, did enough of it happen? And it happened at a high enough quality level that I'm happy with John's performance. Now, for that rating for GWC, it's not a plus minus or a plus minus or a minus. It's a simple yes or no. Do they get it? Yes or no? Do they want it? Yes or no? Do they have the capacity to do it? Yes or no? So you take that People Analyzer, and it's just a tool to get you to be intentional about each one of your direct reports. And in EOS, we want you to use that People Analyzer once a quarter. We want you to set aside a couple of hours, lock the door, turn that phone over, and put it on airplane mode so you're not interrupted, and go through each one of your direct reports and give them a little bit of your brain. Now, really think about them, use that People Analyzer, and figure out, have they fetched your core values, and do they GWC their seat? Are they really in the right seat? Now, the real power of the People Analyzer is not just that clarity that it gives you when you analyze them, but we have a saying in EOS: if I'm going to rate them a plus minus or a minus on a core value, or a no on one of their roles of their seat, it's just not fair to do that if I can't come up with 3 specific, fact-based, objective examples. You can't go to somebody and say, hey, John, I'm rating you a minus on do the right thing because I just don't think you're doing the right thing. They're going to look at you cross-eyed and think you're crazy. But if you say, John, I had to rate you a plus minus this quarter on that, on do the right thing, and let me tell you why. When that decision was made on how we were going to handle that customer complaint, I just don't think you handled that correctly. That wasn't the right way to do it. And when you place that order for that $10,000 piece of equipment without getting a permission that you needed to do that, that was not doing the right thing. And you give them 3 specific examples like that. And here's why. If you just give them 1, they're going to think you're having a bad day. If you give them 2, they're still going to try to talk you out of it. But there's something about the human psyche. When you give them 3, they may not admit it to you at the time, but they're going to walk out of that meeting and they say, I understand where he's coming from. He's right. I'm going to have to work on that, because that's what you do. You People Analyze your person. You get the clarity on where they're right person and their right seat, and then based on the clarity that you get by using the People Analyzer, you come up with the conversation that you're going to have with that person to help coach them to be better by giving those 3 examples and letting them know that they're going to have to get a little bit better there, because you need them to either be better against that core value or better against the role in their seat. And so that's kind of what we're doing with the People Analyzer. It's pretty simple. Once a quarter, sit down, give them an hour or so of your brain, think about them, get the clarity, and then craft the conversation you're going to have. After that, you call in, have a meeting, pat them on the back where they're doing a great job, where they're a plus on their core values and they're the roles that they're doing really good at, and then where you need them to improve, give them those 3 examples, and just set the expectations that I need you to improve. That's all you can do. Once you set that expectation, they've got to be the one to go improve. So you just watch the employee and see if they improve. And if they do, fantastic. Next time you talk to them, you're going to tell them how much you appreciate them getting better. If they're not making any improvement, then we have to think about what next steps are. And we'll talk about that in the next talk. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next week.